Welcome back, readers, to The Secret Lake. We're on chapter 11, Rescue. Lucy had been woken by Mr. Gladstone's shouts and had seen everything through the kitchen window. Poor Emma, Mr. Gladstone gave her a real going over about who'd she been with out in the garden. Emma stuck to her story, though. Blamed Harry, of course. Lucy tossed her long blonde hair back behind her shoulder and lifted her chin. Of course I knew she'd been with someone else. How? Whispered Tom, transfixed. Lucy sighed impatiently and glanced at her eyebrows. Curling her hair around her forefinger, of course. Emma always does that when she's lying. Anyway, which house are you from? Emma didn't tell me it would be a mole hunting party. Otherwise, I might have woken up on time. She gave a quick frown. You still haven't told me your names, by the way. I'm Stella, and this is my brother Tom, said Stella quickly. I'm sorry, Lucy, but we don't have time to explain any more now. It's nearly morning, and if Jack's in the cellar, we better get in there now, before everyone wakes up again. Lucy cocked her head to one side and frowned. Who is the poor boy, anyway? He's a thief, isn't he? What's Emma got to do with him? Stella shook her head. Lucy, you're just going to have to trust me. You know we're friends of Emma's. I know, said Lucy brightly. Well, Jack's a good friend of hers, too. She'll tell you all about it tomorrow, I'm sure. Lucy frowned and nodded. All right, she said impatiently. But tell me this. Exactly how do you propose to get inside? With a key, of course, said Tom, grinning. As he pulled the key from his pocket, Lucy's eyes lit up with delight. Moments later, they stood by the kitchen door waiting to go in. Stella hesitated, then quickly turned to Lucy. Lucy, she whispered urgently, please, when we get out of here with Jack, you must promise to go straight back to your house. Don't try to follow us. We must go our separate ways. Otherwise, we'll all be caught. Emma will explain, I promise. Lucy tossed another glance skywards. All right, she said with an impatient sigh. But do let's get on with it, for goodness sake. As the key turned, the lock clanked loudly, making all three children jump. For a moment they paused, then slowly crept inside. The remains of a small log burned in the fireplace, giving the air a welcome warmth. Stella reached for her torch, glanced across at Lucy, then thought better of it. It's down here, whispered Lucy. The children crept after her towards the pantry they had stolen food from earlier. Suddenly Lucy stepped to one side and pointed to the floor. I've never seen him in such a fury, she whispered excitedly. Who? Said Tom, starting to tremble. Crawley, of course. He beat him 3 times across the back, then tied him all up. Said the police could wait till dawn and the boy could wait with the rats. Mr. Gladstone will be furious if he ever finds out, but he's gone back to bed, of course. Stella's stomach felt hollow as she dropped to her knees and felt around in the half light. Thank goodness Tom had made them come back. She grasped onto a small handle, then with help of the others managed to pull the door up and open. As it clanked back onto the floor, muffled cries rose up from the darkness. Hold your breath, everyone, whispered Stella. She glanced nervously at Lucy, then flicked on her torch to meet Jack's terrified eyes gleaming up at her from where he sat, bound and gagged against a wall at the foot of the wooden steps. Jack, whispered Stella in horror. Where did you get that? Gasped Lucy, staring at the torch. Australia, said Tom, raising his eyebrows. He then dived down the stairs to help his friend. The rag around Jack's mouth was sodden and wet with saliva, and it took Tom several seconds to pull it down and around his neck. How'd you get in here, then? Said Jack, beaming. Through his dirt-smudged face, Tom could see that he had been crying, but he didn't let on. Instead, he proudly pulled the key from his pocket. Get a move on, will you? Whispered Stella crossly. Tom was now desperately fumbling at Jack's back with the ties around his wrists. I can't get them off, he whispered in a panic. Stella gritted her teeth. Pull, Tom, pull. Lucy darted into the kitchen and returned a few seconds later holding out the most enormous kitchen knife that glinted in the light thrown up by the torch. Try this, she said proudly. Stella stared at the knife and swallowed hard. I'll do it, she said quickly. She grasped the knife handle and scrambled down the steps. Tom held the torch steady while Stella cut carefully through the rags and released Jack's hands. "I won't forget this," said Jack, flinching slightly. "Yours really saved me skin this time." He grabbed the knife, and in one clean swipe, which took the children's breath away, he cut his legs free. "Now," he said, jumping up, "I think it's time we all went 'ome, so to speak." With wide grins, Tom and Stella made their way back up the steps behind him. "Let's go," whispered Lucy importantly, but then stopped dead as a child's hand holding out a flickering yellow candle appeared in the doorway of the hall. "Emma!" squealed Stella in delight, just as Sophie stepped into view. For a split second the children stood staring at one another, no one daring to breathe. Then Lucy spoke up. "Why, Sophie," she said in a voice as stiff as her grin, "what on earth are you doing up at this time?" Sophie peered down her nose at Lucy, then moved a slow stare from Stella to Tom to Jack. Gradually but surely a broad smile spread across her face. She then heaved her chest, took the deepest of breaths, and yelled to the top of her lungs, "Crawley! Papa, I've caught them!" In an instant the house came alive. Floorboards thumped, voices shouted, feet thundered down stairways. "I'm on me way!" echoed the yellow Crawley. The children fled past Sophie towards the door, the Gladstone's key clattering across the stone floor as it fell. "Caught whom, Sophie?" said Lucy sarcastically, then dived into the garden after the others. Join us next time for Chapter 12, Guilty.